Hey everybody, Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and it is time to begin a new build. This time we've got the BOSS, the Belt Object Survey Ship, I think is what it stands for. It's just written here somewhere, I guess. I don't know. That's not on the front. It's in the instructions somewhere. Or maybe it's on the back. Maybe it's on the back. Yeah, Belt Object Survey Ship. Hey, that's great. So this is a sci-fi style rocket here. It has an unusual construction design here. It's got, instead of one of the fins, it's got a big circular disc, which, that ought to be an interesting challenge. This is not going to be a particularly high flyer, but this is one of those that I particularly enjoy building because the build should be a little on the challenging side and the end product should look unusual and interesting. So let's get started. First things first, I'm actually going to build that circular part. So I've got the balsa that I'm going to need for this, the semicircular bits. So I'm going to quickly sand them before I cut them out. It also looks like there are some pieces in this particular sheet that I'm going to use as a jig for getting part of this construction nice and level. There we go. I end up shaking everything doing that. Again, I'm not looking for perfect smoothness here. These I'm not really worried about at all since they're just part of the jig. But I want any particularly ugly parts, very shaggy, parts of the balsa, if there are any. I want that off. Making it particularly smooth is not something that just sanding it is ever really going to accomplish. So this is just a first pass, and of course I need to do the back as well. The back doesn't seem as smooth, so this might take a little bit more effort. It's good fun shaking the camera. Well, it's on the desk. Let's see how that did. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then the other one. Alright, that should probably be pretty good at this point. It's smooth enough. Again, I'm not looking for real perfection here. I am just looking to get any particularly offensive parts of the wood taken off. Alright, so get rid of the newsprint here for a moment. And I'm going to cut this out. So I'm looking to see where the nice flat pieces, those usually go pretty quickly, but I'm looking to see in the round part where are the little burrs in the laser cutting, like there's one right there. I'm not really going to try to cut all the way around the round part. So probably if I do that, I'll end up just damaging something. So I'm going to just focus on cutting through those burrs. And hopefully that'll be enough to dislodge it. Looks like there's still a little work. Sometimes, if you flip it over, you can see other spots that you missed. I need to get rid of this little section here too. This is going against the grain, so again, I'm just going to focus on cutting through the burrs rather than cutting around the whole thing. I want to do my best to be cutting, well, you don't really have a lot of good choices here because I really don't want to damage this little bit right here, and I also don't want to cut farther into the fin if I can help it. So, just go gently. The other semicircle here doesn't have any little pieces to remove, so I'm just going to focus on those burrs and sometimes the laser cutting is a little bit more thorough with some of these pieces, and they just, heck, sometimes they pop out even before you've sanded it, which is annoying, but not this time. All right, so there are a couple more pieces in this I need, but I'm going to put it away for the time being. And, well, check the instructions. So the first thing I need to do is I need to glue these pieces together. And that actually might be as much as I get really accomplished. I mean, I'm going to do more, but that I get done with this for the time being. I am going to, the instructions don't say to do this, but I'm going to do this anyway. There's a pretty bad burr right there, so I'm definitely going to sand that. I'm just going to use a little bit of sandpaper by hand on the rounded parts. I'm not going to use my block. And I just want to get rid of the burrs. So I'm just going to go over those spots that look, well, what I know the burr was, pretty much. This is, getting rid of the burrs and smoothing this out on the flat pieces isn't bad. But round pieces, well, I'm not going to worry about the middle parts because I'm probably going to end up messing up the nice laser cut more than I would do anything, useful. The bottom part, though, I'm just going to get a nice big piece of sandpaper and go like this. Yeah, that's nice. So when you're doing a nice even part like this, when you can see if the burrs are still there, but the cut part is dark because that's the laser burning the wood. This is nice and light colored, so I've gotten rid of all the burrs, but I also got rid of the burn part too, which is a nice thing to do more often than not. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I'm just going to glue these pieces together. A little bit of wood glue. I don't think, typically when I glue fins together, I do a two-step, 2 bits of glue. I don't really think I'm going to do that here. I usually only do that when I'm gluing, there we go, and there's an end that has glue on it. The first end I grabbed was not it. Anyway, I usually do the 2-layer or 2 approach when I'm gluing to the tube, a fin to the tube, because that needs to be strong and I'd like it to set up quickly, all things being equal. This, I'm not in a whole lot of rush for this to work. Now I used to have some wax paper to glue pieces like this together and lay them flat. I haven't done that in a while. One, because I lost a piece of wax paper, I don't know what happened to it, but also because the wax paper is not as slick as I had really hoped. It ends up, the fins end up getting glued to the wax paper anyway. My board here, my cutting board, is pretty good when it comes to releasing, so I'm not actually going to worry about it. What I am going to do is I want to find a nice smooth part, and there are a couple little like glue, it's epoxy actually, blobs on my mat, so I don't want it lying on that. But I'm pushing them together right now, and I'm pushing them down, and I can see the glue beaded up a little bit. I had a little bit too much in certain spots. Just smooth that out. And I'm just going to keep holding this, pushing them together for the better part of a minute. And then I am going to, because if the glue bubbled up through the top, it probably bubbled down as well. And if it did that, then I'm essentially gluing this to my mat. I clearly don't want that. So once I feel pretty confident in this, I am going to just kind of shift it. I'm going to break whatever glue bond there is between the wood and the mat. I'm going to shift it, move it someplace else. And then I'm going to put something reasonably heavy on top of it. I'm probably going to use, I'll show you what I'm going to use here in a moment, but there are a few somewhat heavy objects that I generally use for things like this that are lying around. You don't need anything specialized, but if you're looking for something, a nice pound can of who knows what from the pantry works pretty well. Alright, so let's shift it. That really didn't seem like it got too stuck. There's a little seam of glue left over there. That's fine. I really want this to be very, very flat. So I'm going to use a ring of tape here. And I have a thing of baby powder that I use for powdering parachutes in cold months. It's pretty heavy because I don't use it very often. I'm just going to lie that on top and then get it out of the way. So that's going to sit for a while. There's more work to do with that, but in the time being, let's spend the rest of this video building the motor mount. So I have a bag that is full of tubes. This particular build takes a lot of tubes to make the, all the different decorations. So the trick here will be finding the right tube, and the tubes tend to be stacked. There we go, that's the one. Inside of each other, so if you don't see it immediately, it's probably inside of something else. Right. The rest of those tubes, I will need them at some point, but not right now. I do need some centering rings and things out of this too. It's bag, inside bag, which I guess is nice, make sure you got all the pieces. Whoops, there goes the motor mount. Fan in the room must have kicked on. Alright, so to do this I need these two, and I'm going to need a mount. Oh, and I need the clear ring as well. Well, I need that. That's the engine block. And this guy. All these other ones, well, we'll figure out what they do later. Some of the stuff I can pitch. Don't really need to read the rocket safety code again. I think once is probably enough. Oh, I need the engine hook too. There you go. Actually, you should probably read the rocket safety guide more than once, but now is probably not the time you need to worry about that. Alright, pencil and ruler, and I need to make a couple measurements here on the motor mount. So I need to mark off 1/4 of an inch. And that would be here. There we go. And I need to mark off 1 inch. That would be here. And I need to mark off 2.5 inches, which would be about there. Okay. I suspect this is going to be a pretty typical motor mount build. They all, honestly, they tend to be pretty similar every single time. So I'm going to use my hobby knife, and I'm going to cut at the 2.5 inch mark, just a little slit. That's where the engine hook goes in. It's more than enough probably, but if you end up cutting in and it's not big enough, then go back or just punch through. There we go. So there's the engine hook. That's in place. The next step then is I'm going to put this ring around it. That's going to go down to the 1 inch mark. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I'm going to put it in front of the 1 inch mark because the ring is going to slide through it. It's probably way more glue than I need. There we go. Yeah, so the ring's going to slide through it right to that 1 inch mark. So you don't want to put it right at the 1 inch mark, or you'll have a bunch of glue places you don't want it. It's good. Got a paper towel here. Okay. Then the next step is I'm going to put the block just inside here. So you don't need to worry about where that goes. The hook, actually the end of the hook, is going to be part of the motor retention system, but having a nice block right behind it is a nice thing to do as well. This just goes in. And if you want to push it right up to the hook, you can, but it shouldn't be that far. There's, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch, maybe a millimeter or so that I have it set inside. I could put it a little farther in, but I don't really see the point. It's fine as is. And then the last thing we need to do with this is I need to put the other 2 rings on. Now one is split. Great, interlocking. There we go. The split end is going to go at this end because it's split to allow the hook to go through it. Sometimes you have to cut these out, but this one apparently you don't. And then the other one is going to go just right at the end which is, there we go, just like that. Dry fit to make sure all these they fit. This one I'm going to leave on. This one I'm going to have to take off because there's hardly any space here. But again, put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to again put it farther up the tube than my 1/4 inch mark because the ring is going to slide through it as I push it down to that mark. There we go. I'm going to smooth out the glue here, make myself a little fillet. I want to make sure that I don't have any glue on the hook. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're going to be able, even if the glue sets, it's not going to be strong enough. You can break the hook free if you really need to. What I am going to do is I'm going to squeeze this a little bit to make sure that it's adhered nicely to the tube. I'm also, since I got a little fillet on one side, I'm going to put a little bit more glue, and I'm going to go light here. This is actually way more than I probably need, but it's about as low flow as I can get out of the glue bottle at the moment. And I'm just going to smear this in. I need it a little bit more. Alright, that's probably enough. It's an additive process if necessary. And make myself a little fillet here. I'm trying not to get any on top of the green part. A little bit more here as well. If you get some on top, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just going to be a little bit harder to get into the actual body tube, which is something that we would avoid given the opportunity. Alright, last but not least, I'm going to put some glue near the end of the motor mount. There we go. And then this last tube is just going to go on like so, and I'm going to just push it down like so, so that it's flush with the end. The excess glue here, this is a nice way to make a fillet too, so I'm just going to smooth that out. And that's it. Motor mount done. Needs to dry, of course, before we do anything with it, but this is a good place to stop. So in the next video, we'll finish building up the round fin business, and then we'll start making, there are some engine pods that are, I don't know, I guess they're decorative to some degree, but they're also fins, so it should be exciting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next bit.